Liam, welcome to not our podcast, but our first One Piece discussion ever, maybe.
Yeah.
Except the Wano report, I guess.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, welcome to the Liam and Manu podcast, which is different from our usual one because we have funky backgrounds.
We're just confusing people with talking about One Piece, building large channels on One Piece, then starting a podcast about something completely different, and then bringing it all the way back to One Piece.
Everything always comes back to One Piece. That's what we should know by now.
Well, let me ask you right from the start for retention purposes. You should know that. What are your thoughts on the last chapter? What's going to happen and what did happen?
Okay, there's a lot of questions there. Holy crap. It's not as if I have a whole channel dedicated to like dissecting all of those questions in great detail.
Right.
My feelings on the last chapter, yeah, it was all right. It was pretty good.
Well,
I think just one of, yeah, Oda can do better. Just casually throws us what, in retrospect, because I'm still kind of shell-shocked about the whole thing. But in retrospect, I think this is probably the biggest bombshell that we have ever had in One Piece. Would I be wrong? Because I can't think of a bigger one.
I don't think you would be wrong, just because of the fact how this chapter not only affects the future of the story as many other bombshells have had in the past, but it also like goes back and like in reverse will change a lot of things about the story as well.
It retrospectively changes the last quarter of a century.
Yes. So I guess the 1 million berry question, which is not a lot of berries, but like let's go with the 1 billion. I guess. It's like that's not a lot of money. What do you think? Okay, because like I feel like there's like kind of like three fractions or like three options out there for like what happened to Luffy, which is what is literally on everyone's mind. Do you think it's A, that this is simply something Joy Boy related, Devil Fruit doesn't play a role? Is it B, Gomu Gomu no Mi and Joy Boy kind of thing? Or is it C, Joy Boy and a different Devil Fruit that we just didn't know about until now?
It's got to be C at the moment. I shouldn't say it's got to be C. That's too imperative. My belief is C. I think there have been far too many, I wouldn't even say hints, but like outright jabs at this stage that the Gomu Gomu no Mi is not what it seems, and it is in fact a different Devil Fruit altogether. And it's hard to deny that Joy Boy is involved in all of this. Maybe coincidentally, probably not. So at the moment,
I would say so as well.
Yeah, my money is definitely on C, and I'm favoring the raisin idea at this stage.
I think it's so for those of you who don't know, the raisin idea is basically that Luffy's power isn't rubber per se, but basically an upgraded version of it, I guess would be fair to say, no? Where basically raisin has a lot of the properties in different states that rubber has, but it also has additional features, which for example have to do with heat. It's heat resistant, it's still an insulator for electricity, which would explain the NL thing.
Well, when you say heat resistant, it actually melts when heat is applied.
It becomes
sort
malleable.
Of like the
I mean, like you don't.
Effect, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it would be a Logia fruit, right? In that sense, I guess.
Maybe, or a Katakuri style fruit, where he can just paramecia manipulate his body. Weirdly.
Right. And I think, if I remember correctly, so I don't know, I think you were planning to do a video on this, and I've definitely been thinking about it. I actually honestly just didn't do one because I thought you already did one, which turns out you didn't. So we'll see. Maybe we have 2 videos on it. But yeah, like it's like in case you don't know, I think the person who originally came up with that idea is Yudaron, as far as I know, at least, because I've seen that idea on
Interesting,
his channel
yeah. I don't follow Yudaron because I don't speak Japanese. I saw the idea on Reddit from a user named Pringles.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like it has been on his channel a while ago, so but I'm not sure if he's like the original person or if he's just his thing.
It is very trademark Yudaron because it does incorporate the Gorowase of 1043.
Right, it does indeed. So that might be the original source. So yeah.
And usually I hate that sort of thing, but I'm kind of on board with it because of the gigantic pile of evidence that comes from elsewhere in this case.
Exactly. I mean, I've really kind of shifted my mind a little bit because I used to be a person, especially before that big video
You used
I
to be a
made with
person?
you did on the first time. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Carry on.
Anyways. Anyways. So I used to be a human being that I was not very fond of the entire Goro Awase thing, so like the wordplays and so far, and like, oh yeah, of course, like Oda is playing, like hiding things in the cover stories and everything. I was really against that. I thought that was kind of like, you're trying a bit too hard, which is funnily enough now something people keep telling me all the time, so the tides have truly turned on that. I know.
You've become the thing you hated most.
Yes, indeed. As you usually do. As you usually do. But yeah, I think there has been a lot of like instances where that has actually been confirmed, more or less, that like certain chapters just contain the wordplays, and like a lot of things have been hinted at in cover spreads before, like Kaido and Momo and so on and so forth. So it's something I've been becoming much more open to in general, which is why the raisin idea, in combination, like not only with the wordplays but also like other factors in general, just because it would make sense with Luffy's power until now, is like probably one of the top contenders at the moment. One thing that and that's just a personal opinion, I'd like to know what you think about it. One thing that bugs me a little bit about it, as much as I like the idea and as cool as I think it is I feel like if Luffy's devil fruit has actually not been the Gomu Gomu no Mi all along, I would personally want it to be a bit more different. Than just be a slightly upgraded version of rubber, if that makes sense. So what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I get what you mean, and I have written my video on this, and it gets into a really contentious topic because rubber, depending on who you talk to, is technically already resin, because it's the resin of a rubber tree, which excretes in the form of latex, which is rubber, and just like that. It's a contentious point amongst the scientific or the pseudo-scientific online community.
In this video as well.
Oh yeah, I try to work in at least one excrete in every video.
That's good. Have my list there. Sorry, keep going.
I get what you mean though. You would expect, and this is why I think people jump to all of the Sun Wukong or the mythical Zoan conclusions. That if Luffy's devil fruit isn't like, I'm a basic rubber man, then it's some sort of special, I'm a god fruit. And resin isn't, it's not the... I would say it's not the sexiest of answers for the big revelation to be, oh, Luffy's actually a technical rubber of some other kind.
See, it's really interesting because I would have liked to say it would be the Odaist of answers to this mystery, because it would be a very Oda thing to do, to go into that direction kind of and be like, it was not the Gomu Gomu no Mi after all, it was the raisin no Mi. I'm like, okay, well that's slightly different, I guess. But then at the same time, like what I personally felt in the chapter, like I kind of got quote-unquote non-One Piece vibes in a good way. It was very shonen-y in the sense that like you have like this awakening that Luffy has, and like that it's something Oda has never done really before, where like I would argue there has been a lot of foreshadowing already, like especially in Onigashima, but also before, about like the Joy Boy connection and all, and so that's not the issue, but like that basically Luffy gets a power upgrade that is not him working hard or tries to, like, with Katakuri, like fighting hard or developing a new technique, which has usually been how it's been going.
Yeah.
So that has been very un-Oda-like, at least that first impression of it. What's your take on that?
I agree with you. I will say that the thing that... And without this, I don't like the resin idea at all. Without this one thing, this one weird trick I'm about to reveal.
Gonna make it all work.
The thing that really gets to me is that interview Oda did in, I think it was September 2020, where he revealed his top 3 favorite scenes in the series. Have you gone back and looked at those since?
With the Sabaody one. Right.
Yes. There's a very weird number 2 favorite scene, which involves quite specifically a talking starfish discussing resin and explaining how the Sabaody bubbles work. And that is such a weird thing that of all of the One Piece, that is the scene that he's, second most proud of or holds as his second favorite.
I guess especially if you do look at his favorite scene, which is the party on Skypiea, which was clearly now in retrospect the look, like this is gonna be Sun God Nico, you just don't know it yet kind of, you know, thing.
And,
so yeah, that gives that even more importance.
And the third favorite scene, which is the opening of Wano. And if you look at all of them, I'm not usually this person, because this sounds very tinfoil conspiracy. But if you look at all of them, it sounds like what Oda was doing there was a bit of a message. You know, Luffy is the sun god, his powers are resin, and we'll find out on Wano, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where I don't know if those are actually his favorite scenes, or if he was just trolling us and giving us some foreshadowing.
I mean, either would be fun.
When it comes to One Piece, how do I even explain this? I believe in Oda's ability to make really weird and wacky and simple ideas into that escalation. I don't think he necessarily, or even often ever, relies on those sorts of big, transformative sorts of ideas. And so, with the whole Sun Wukong thing and every idea that relates to it, I really like it.
Right, I'm really curious in general, because, for example, one assumption that is incredibly legitimate, by the way, is that Luffy is melting or like liquefying in some way or form based on that one panel we got. Which I think is, again, a fair assumption, because we have the Sabaody scene that people have dug out, we have, you know, the raisin connection to rubber and so on and so forth. But we still, like, it might as well be like fur or something. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily be him melting. It could really be like hair or whatever. Really, like,
a lot of people have also said that it's just the Straw Hat as well. It's not actually Luffy. It's just like a third party. This is like one of my favorite thoughts, just because I love crack theories. But there's even a thought right now that it's Caribou on him instead of actually,
which would
be the
so
ultimate
hilarious.
Troll. Yes.
I do feel that would be a very risky move at that point. I feel like people would be so mad.
People would be furious, and it would be amazing.
Right. I mean, even still, I think, like, even if it's something else, like, I feel like that Luffy is Joy Boy, has awakened Joy Boy, is pretty much confirmed, because we know it's not Momonosuke. He kind of communicates that with Zunisha. And it seems like, I've mentioned that in my reaction to the chapter, but there is this sound effect in the story that was not translated properly. I felt like it's like this heartbeat sound effect where Luffy's heart apparently is supposed to like start beating again.
Yeah.
And so I think what was interesting,
what it was like a
it's like, I think the
Doom
second last
Dada
page.
in the Viz translation. Like, it's a really...
Are we talking about the drums? Or are we talking about that panel in the close-up? No, I mean the panel where Luffy is like with the black eyes in close-up.
No, that's a ba-bump in English.
Yeah, exactly. So that is basically, in Japanese, it's pretty clearly like a heartbeat sound. Like hearts that like starts beating again. And so I personally thought it was implied that, you know, Luffy's presence, the people who were familiar with Luffy, it's kind of this mirrored concept. The people who are familiar with Luffy feel his presence vanish. So that's Kaido, it's Momo, it's Zoro, you know, like the people who like have like good enough hockey to feel Luffy's will. Law, I think, was also one of them, you know, who feel Luffy's presence vanish. And then in return, you have Zunisha recognize the presence of someone she or he knows by Joy Boy reappearing in the moment where Luffy's heart starts beating again, which is why I actually, and this is where I'm really curious what your thoughts are, where I personally at the moment actually tend towards the idea that Luffy has actually been possessed in a way by Joy Boy. Which at least the chapter in that, you know, narrative structuring seems to suggest, at least at the moment, that Luffy's spirit has died or vanished, and now Joy Boy has taken over, which is why Zunisha kind of recognizes that. So would you agree with that reading I have of the chapter? And if so, or if not so, like what are your thoughts if that were actually the case?
I agree with that's what Oda is trying to leave you with, that's the cliffhanger. It looks like Luffy is gone or gone for now, and something else, well, obviously Joy Boy has inhabited him. What makes me skeptical is again that this is One Piece, and Oda's cliffhangers, they're often red herrings.
Treacherous.
Yeah. They're often meant to make us believe one thing that we then talk about for a week or two, and then the chapter comes out and it's like, oh, it was actually this other thing. Like he did with the whole
That's absolutely true.
The whole devil fruit thing with Zunesha, how the way he structured the panels was implying that the five elders were talking about Zunesha, when that's 99% not the case anymore.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But it threw us for a nice loop.
Absolutely. I think I would argue that has been kind of resolved with them actually directly instructing CP0 to assassinate Luffy, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that would be weird.
I don't know how much I like the possession camp, just because it might seem a bit too obvious. What I enjoy more is the idea that it's like a Shirahoshi Poseidon situation, where a power or a legacy or a will has awakened within this person.
Right.
But not necessarily like a full-on personality.
I guess, is there anything before, because I do have a, like, really important question about that, of course, as well, but like before that, is there anything else about the chapter that you would like to share, or that you, like, any thoughts you feel like you want to put out there?
Mad respect to Bob Lucci of CP0 for just taking that death like a boss. That is, due to the end of the chapter, I think that's a very underappreciated moment, and just wanted to give him his time to shine.
And one thing I found was interesting. Yeah, I would agree. And one thing I found interesting, because I was thinking like why it was so easy to jump on that. And I think the fact was that he showed, for a ZP0 agent, he showed a lot of humanity in like the few lines he got. He was like, I envy you, Drake, for like the path you chose. He was like, I really don't want to do this. Please don't order me on this. So like, it was...
You want me to interrupt Kaido's fight.
Yeah, I think Rob Lucci was a great villain. Like, don't get me wrong. Like this, like cold, kind of like forced into this kind of like numb villainous role was really interesting. Like he made a great villain for Enies Lobby. But I think what made this guy so much more relatable, why people were like respect, was that he was very genuinely human in his reactions to everything, like most relatable almost. In like, you know, in anime you always have like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna die. He was like, I can't go up there between those two. So, and then like he was like,
and then he did it anyway. And even though it's, you know, it doesn't serve our interest, there's like a certain level of respect to interrupting the fight of, you know, the strongest thing in the world, and knowing that it's probably going to be your final moment.
Absolutely. And so I absolutely agree. That was a great... I love it when Oda manages to characterize characters in like very short time spans. I think he did that wonderfully with Yamato. Like even after 5 chapters of knowing her, she was already really well characterized, and now it almost feels like she's been there like since forever, basically. And so like that's another example, I think, of a character that got characterization in such a short time span, but made his last moment and his short while on screen really worthwhile.
Yeah, I would say hats off, but hats very much on to Bob Lucci.
Hats very much on. And then one more question that just popped randomly into my head, because I think a lot of people have been kind of avoiding the fact whether Kaido can still awaken his fruit, because in an awakened zone state or not. And I was always like, it was kind of looking like Luffy was gonna go in a direction where there was kind of, you know, they were head to head and like it could go either way. And now Luffy has been defeated, but is gonna come back stronger, clearly, is kind of the shonen-y thing that is being hinted at, obviously, at least. And so I feel like now it would seem a lot more reasonable if Kaido actually had another ace up his sleeve as well.
Zoro,
you know what I mean?
Back.
Zoro as well.
If Zoro awakened his devil fruit, that would be amazing.
That would be a good video.
I guess, I'm not sure. In my mind brain of headcanon, the awakening of Kaido's devil fruit was the ability to turn into the dragon in the first place.
In the first place, kind of go from the fish to the...
Yeah, but again, that hasn't even come close to being explained. Even if there is a fish involved, it could just be you eat it and then straight up a dragon. It would be a bit... Which is
kind of what is implied with Momo, right?
Yeah, exactly. If they have the same... But maybe that's why Vegapunk's devil fruit was a failure, because it skipped the fish form. Who knows? Things, questions, so many questions.
Oh, oh, this devil fruit is an absolute failure. It just goes to the strong part right away.
I wanted the Magikarp, not the Gyarados. Put the fruit in the bin. We're done with it.
Literally.
I would find it a bit strange if someone of Kaido's prominence had not awakened his devil fruit. But it's the same sort of feeling I get with Whitebeard, because he's not a confirmed awakened devil fruit user.
Right, though then I feel like with Whitebeard you could probably make the excuse that if Whitebeard had used his awakened devil fruit at Marineford, he already did a lot of collateral damage in general as it was.
The problem with Kaido's fruit is that it's a mythical Zoan, and we don't really understand how they function because they're all quite unique. So it would be easy to say that he wasn't awakened because he doesn't follow the standard Zoan, you know, big bulky zombie transformation.
Bulky thing. Yeah, it's really interesting. I hope that Kaido still has something up his sleeve, because right now I would say he's pretty, like, there's probably no one on the island right now who could finish him off, but he's definitely vulnerable right now. If Luffy gets the power up that we all hope he gets, I guess now based on all this, Kaido would definitely also have to be able to put up a fight still, I feel.
It's interesting because I'm trying to think back on Luffy fights right now, and if his opponents usually have that kind of upper state once he's had his, you know, his final power up. And generally not really, they just kind of remain as they are, if I'm recalling things correctly. So. Like with Katakuri, he didn't have Kaido, a special thing after Snake Man, for example.
That is true. But then again, Kaido also is a more special villain in the fact that he's the big baddie of the entire fight, right? And Luffy is, again, what we discussed earlier, not just, I mean, he did grow stronger during he did the Katakuri move with the Conqueror's Haki thing, right? Which is like, the focus was kind of on observation, what was it, on Armament Haki first, you know, after the first defeat right at the beginning of the arc, and then it kind of shifted to Armament Haki in preparation for the raid. That wasn't enough. Then he found out Conqueror's Haki, you can use that to fight as well. So I feel like that was kind of the in-fight power-up, in quote-unquote, or like the thing Luffy learned and like copied from Kaido. But now I feel like since it's I think Deus Ex Machina is maybe a bit too hard because it has like this very negative connotation, but this kind of, you know, it is like an external factor that's now awakening in Luffy, or at least so it seems. So I think it might be fair to give Kaido or like another sleeve, a card up, another card up his sleeve, another sleeve up his butt, I was about to say. Wow,
okay. You've got some interesting desires.
It does work.
Let's stick all sorts of stuff up Kaido's butt, sure. I will say he definitely has something still remaining, because throughout this entire fight, like, it might not be something huge, but he keeps pulling out new techniques or advanced versions of old techniques, so I definitely don't think he's done. Yeah, he did.
Which I thought was hilarious. He's like, you know, and I still feel like we need to see, that moment where also Kaido kind of like is really like dropping his like tension and everything, and, you know, embracing and enjoying that fight as well before the climax. Now, one more thing that I would like to know from you is, whatever this awakening is, would you agree with the fact that we are just gonna see it like kind of like Luffy at Marineford using Conqueror's Haki? It's gonna be something that's gonna burst out of Luffy. He doesn't really know what happens or can't really control it, and it's only something he will learn about and control later. When he maybe meets Shanks, he will be told about it, you know, with the devil fruit, or when he meets Blackbeard, it's something that he will actually, you know, the closer you get to Laugh Tale, that he's actually gonna have to learn about, embrace, and then perfect at a later stage in the story.
So much of that depends on the nature of the fruit itself. I could see a situation where he's awakened, he has, you know, his new goopy abilities, and then he goes, I once fought a guy who did stuff like this, let me try out some of what he did. But thinking about it, again, like we mentioned this before, you always need somewhere to go. And if Luffy has the advanced Conqueror's armament, observation, and a Devil Fruit Awakening just all done, what are we gonna do in that final saga? I don't know. Maybe something, maybe nothing.
You can go Naruto, like, ancient weapon kind of whatever, but I do think also it would be more fun to have this be like an outburst kind of thing, and everyone's like, holy hell. Did he do that on purpose? I know he didn't do it on purpose, but still, kind of like...
He probably won't master it, you know, in the minute or so we've got before Onigashima falls on the flower capital.
I would say so as well.
Like, the Conqueror's Haki has a good excuse because he was training with armament and it was just, you know, same thing, different willpower.
Exactly. It was very Haki focused, and now it's kind of moving more towards that devil fruit kind of sphere, I would say. Well, guys... Thank you so much for coming, Liam. Make sure to check him out in case you're, for some reason, not subscribed to him. He's really working hard to become the first One Piece creator to crack that 1 million this year.
As
on
are
a
you.
strong way so far, so go over, check out his content. He does way more than I do. We also do have a podcast together that I have not officially shouted out on this channel yet, which is going to be also in the link in the description below, where we do not talk about One Piece, but just general stuff with Sophie, Blue Banana Podcast. And otherwise, that's it from my side. Watch another video right here.
Cool. Sorry, I didn't know what to say at the end there.